What's happening, guys? Jomo here. I want to make a video about something that's on my mind right now, especially listening to the music I've been listening to today. A lot of Nako, Mike Love, spiritual kind of music that takes me back to the way that I used to be when I was really in my spirituality and living from that space. And as I've described it in the recent past, I've called it my woo phases. So I've gone through a few woo phases in my life. One that was like almost years. Another was with Empower Network. And I know a lot of you guys that either knew me through Empower Network or were connected with me when I was making videos about Empower Network. I really believe that it was what I loved about it the most, I think, in retrospect, is that it felt like a way that you could merge the arts and the creativity with practicality. And I think that's the issue that a lot of artists face, is that's why they call them struggling artists, is because the majority of artists, they want to live practically. They want to, have a practical livelihood, but they also have this deeper, more urging desire to create art and to share what they see in the world, what they believe is possible in the world, just whatever it is that they are perceiving. They need to get it out. They need to express. They need to let it out. And so the reason I loved Empower Network is because the way I framed it in my mind was I saw it as a vehicle where artists and creatives could plug into a system, get paid to express themselves by promoting the product in Empower Network. And I realized in retrospect that was kind of a roundabout way of going about it, because it still makes something that's intangible. It tries to make something that's intangible tangible. It tries to make art that is inherently priceless have a price to it. And I think that's actually the issue that most artists face, is they battle with this in their heads, where they don't want to sell out. They want to be true to themselves, but at the same time, they need to put food on their plates. They need to pay for their mortgage. They need to pay for their rent, whatever it is. It's like the practicality and the spirituality are at odds, where it's like, if you really had as much money as you needed and it was coming in constantly, you didn't have to worry about working a job or making money from your music or your art, what would your life be like? And for artists, in my approximation, it would be, they would just be creating, and they would be creating and creating and creating and doing what they love and doing what's natural. And that's what I loved about what I thought Empower Network was I thought it was a platform for artists to create and get paid for that creation, so that they didn't actually have to worry about making money off of their music beyond whatever they're selling. But what I'm saying, the long story short of what I'm trying to say, is the two don't have to go together. You can make money in another way, and then you can just create art for the sake of creating art. And I think that is what has been missing in the world of creatives and artists, is you're either a struggling artist or a successful artist that has sold out. It's very rare that you're in the middle somewhere, that you are providing yourself really well and you're really creative, you're independent. More and more that has been happening because of the internet, but as far as the way that the music industry is structured, it really makes it hard, or at least in the past has made it very hard for artists, the true artists, to monetize their work for the specific reason that it just feels weird to monetize something that's just coming from you in a way that like like I said, is priceless and is just like this phenomenon that you can't really put a price tag on. And so it's literally the same thing as, you know, putting a price tag on food that grew from the earth. Like when farmers sell their produce, they could, if they really were able to, meaning if they had an income that allowed them to live indefinitely, they didn't need to sell their food, what would they do? They would give it away. Okay? It's like we're living in a system where we feel like we need to sell out, meaning sell something that is priceless, okay, or something that is inherently like free growing, like it's like you don't have to pay the ground to grow the food. Like the ground grows the food as long as you water it and tend to it. You know, obviously you do have to work the land in order to produce the harvest, but it's like there's all this injecting of, okay, we have to make money in order to survive, therefore we have to sell these things that we would do without, if we didn't have to make money, we have to sell these things that we would just give away if we didn't have to make money. But because we have to make money, we have to sell these things so that we can get money to survive. And it's like, it's so strange. It's so strange. But anyway, like that's the dynamics. That's the situation that we're all in as humans right now, at least in the Western world. And from what I've seen, the majority of the rest of the world as well. So how do we break free from this system? And my ideas revolve around very similar to what it was with Empower Network, but now getting more into cryptocurrency and digital, basically decentralization. I was exposed to this project called, it's the Universal Basic Income Coin, and it's called the Proof of Humanity. So I recommend anyone watching this, check this out. It's a beautiful, beautiful project. Their goal is to literally give everyone, especially everyone who needs it, meaning is like, you know, can't survive without, without this universal basic income. Like it literally will save people from starvation. It will save people from homelessness, poverty. It literally will create that baseline, okay? Andrew Yang ran mainly on the idea of a universal basic income. And I think the way that he ran on it, when it's a handout from the government, it creates some strange dynamics that, people feel dependent on the government. And also you don't know how much the government's going to overstep their boundaries in terms of, asking for a lot in return for this universal basic income. Like, what are we going to have to sacrifice in order to get that universal basic income? That's the question. So I think it operating on a decentralized network like this UBI coin, I think that's a beautiful step in the right direction, because it distances us from that entity, that third party that basically can take it away at any moment if they choose. So they're using various different protocols in order to generate the money to provide this universal basic income, and it's still a work in progress. It's not perfected yet. But I've been in their Telegram checking out what people are talking about, and like the people who are working on this project and are involved in it, like really awesome, intelligent people that truly want to solve, poverty for the world. At least that's the way I'm interpreting it. And to me, like that is the problem to solve in the world right now, is how do we help? This is my mission, is how do I help make sure that no person is going without food, the basics, food, water, clean water, shelter, and energy? How do we make sure that every single person in the world has access to these things? I think if we can nail that, if we can figure that out, like humanity, the consciousness of humanity is going to shift completely, immediately. Okay, if you knew, think about how many crimes that are committed in the name of somebody not having enough. Think about how many of those crimes would be avoided if they had enough. Almost all of them, if not all of them. And so the question I pose is, how do we provide people like farmers, people like artists, people that are in poverty, okay, basically the people that are choosing, you know, or not even choosing. Some people just have no other choice but to be in poverty because the system around them is so corrupted and is so hard to get ahead in. And that's how the United States is becoming, by the way. So how do we help all of these people that are in these positions where they have gifts that they can share with the world, but they feel compromised? They feel like they have to sell out in order to survive. They feel like, you know, their gifts are not able to be expressed on a regular basis because they have to do this other thing that, you know, may or may not go against their values. And they have to basically, you know, work in order to provide their sustenance on a regular basis. And like, I'm not going to be totally idealistic pie in the sky. Okay. There's some practicalities about this. Like, I get that, like, the world exists because people work for other people. Everything that you see around you, everything that's in the stores, that's like when you purchase stuff online, like everything got to you because somebody worked to get that thing to you. And therefore, in order to be a contributing member of that society, like, you also are expected to work and contribute in your own way. Now, I think the thing is about artists and creatives is their work is basically pulling out their ideas, pulling out their creativity, observing what they observe, processing what they process, sharing with the world solutions, ideas, ways to improve upon society. So I think that artists and creatives are workers in what they do, but the world doesn't yet see it that way. So I guess, like, that's my personal hang up and personal frustration with how the world operates is, you know, and even Andrew Yang was talking about this when he was running about UBI. He was saying, how about all the single moms or just work at home moms, or not work at home, stay at home moms that, you know, their full-time job is taking care of their children, raising their children. They don't get paid for that. And so especially as a single mom, how is a single mom expected to raise a child and provide for herself and that child? You know, it's a very complicated situation that I think would get completely uncomplicated as soon as a universal basic income was introduced. And I think a decentralized universal basic income is the solution. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. I'd love to hear what you think about this idea and this concept. Just imagine if you had a universal basic income coming in from a decentralized place, so it couldn't be taken away. It wasn't dependent on you being, you know, it wasn't dependent on you meeting certain criteria, where most of the government programs right now are set up that way, where you have to you know, check off this box, check off this box, check off this box in order to qualify for government subsidies and stuff like that. Whereas it was just freely given. It was just freely provided to you. I want to know, would this be something that you think would improve humanity? Obviously, like, people are still going to need to be motivated and incentivized to work in some way. And I think, especially with all the automation and robotics that's happening, where there's so many jobs that exist right now that don't need to exist, that humans don't need to do, that robots can do already or are about to be able to do. And so I think that this is a very important transition, that we do participate in something like this so that we can actualize and activate like the ingenuity and creativity of humanity. And so that is why I think this is such an exciting idea and exciting project. Just like the concept around this, I think, is really fascinating. And I've, you know, for years thought about, like, what would it be like if I didn't have to work for a living? Like, if I didn't have to work to provide for my needs. And more as the years have gone on, and I've gone through like woo phases where, you know, I've gone completely off the grid, completely no money, essentially no money, no working, no earning money. And I've survived as long as that money lasted. And then more recently, I've learned how to live more simply, have less expenses, therefore not need to spend as much, not need to pay as much, and therefore not have to work as much. And so I've found the sweet spot, or at least like coming close to finding the sweet spot. I think the true sweet spot will be if we have the universal basic income and we have an ability for creatives, and that gives way for humanity to be more creative in general, especially the artists that are already, you know, looking for a way to create all the things that they really want to create. We'll create more of a culture of art versus a culture of workers, because that's what it is right now. And I think like a culture of workers, especially workers that are doing things that computers or robots can now do, I think that is very harmful and detrimental to the psyche, the mental health, and the well-being of our citizens, of the people in this world. So I'm really excited about this universal basic income, the UBI coin project. Once again, it's proof of humanity. If you just Google that, you'll be able to find it. But yeah, it's a really exciting project, and like this idea completely changes the game, I think, for the majority of the world. And I think that's what's really exciting about this new wave of decentralized finance, is that we can put money in the hands of people who normally wouldn't have access to those funds. So I'm not going to go on a rant about that as well, but I'm just really interested what your thoughts are around this idea, this concept of universal basic income, particularly now one that's decentralized, and that doesn't have requirements behind it in order for you to receive that universal basic income. I think it's a really cool idea, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it as well. So hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like it, and yeah, leave a comment below letting me know what you thought and what you're excited about in the world and the space of decentralized finance. All right, my friend, talk to you soon. Peace.